Hi, and welcome to Bougie Best Friend. I am your bougie best friend, and you're my bougie best friend, and I am talking about finances today. Finances in a relationship, and this conversation was inspired by you, bougie besties. I get on my Wobo do, I get insane amount of questions about finances, and obviously, I'm not a financial expert by any means. But I'm just going to tell you from my perspective and from my experience. First off, it's crazy how uncomfortable it is to talk about finances. And the question is why? Why is it so awkward to talk about finances, even with your friends, with your partner, with anybody? And I feel like where I come from, Croatia, you don't talk about money. It's almost like tacky and classless to talk about money. And when I moved to the US, like the first question people would ask you, like, where do you live and how much is your rent? And I'm like, yo, this is so invasive. But I think the way you grew up really determines your relationship towards money and how open or not open you are when it comes to talking about certain things. So if you grew up in a household where money was a problem, where you didn't have a lot of money, and bringing up money in any conversation just created anxiety and fear and judgment and shame and all these negative feelings, obviously you're going to bring that with you to your adulthood. And sometimes you just don't know how to handle these conversations because we were not taught in schools how to have these quote unquote uncomfortable conversations, because they shouldn't even be uncomfortable. Talking about money shouldn't be uncomfortable. And I will never forget my friend Sammy Purr told me once, she's like, talking about money should be like talking about the weather. And just having that mindset would make your life so much easier. And the big boys do it. When you go into an all male conference room, they have no problem asking for a raise and asking for this and asking for that and asking each other how much money you spend on certain things. Not to get all male female here, but I think from my experience, women have a harder time talking about finances, and for men it's more like direct, straight shooter. Overall, the reason why it's so uncomfortable talking about finances is because a lot of us have no idea where we even are. I'll take myself as an example. I work as a content creator. This is my full-time job. I don't have a salary. I don't get a paycheck. I get paid by brand deals, by partnerships, by some affiliate links, some projects that I'm working on. I don't know how much I make month to month. Now, obviously, I have a overall understanding of how much I bring home in total, but it's hard for me to even plan certain things like big investments or huge expenses if I don't know how much money I'm making. And sometimes I'm very open with my partner, and we talk about it really openly, but that was not the case throughout our whole relationship. But yeah, I think first we got to understand, why is it so uncomfortable to talk about money? And it's because we were just all raised differently, and the idea of money is almost like installed negatively in us, at least in me. And my relationship towards money and towards conversations about money changed a lot as I got older. And honestly, when I started dating Wes, we just started having open conversation about finances. And when you're moving in with somebody, like, there's certain conversations you need to have. I mean, it's even weird sometimes to ask somebody to pay you back, and it's like, it shouldn't be weird. But anyway, I think that, okay, Rocky just jumped in. Hopefully he won't be. Okay, buddy, that's good. Okay, you can just sit. Oh God, he's jumping all over. Honey, mommy's recording. Yeah, so there he is. He's coming back. Okay, that's it. Good boy, sit here. So now that we established why is it so uncomfortable talking about money, let's start with, how can you start the money conversation with your partner? And here I'm more referring to people that you're actually going to be in a relationship with and people you're going to build a future with. I'm not talking about, okay, let me just cover this real quick. Paying on dates and 50-50 and all that. I feel like a lot of people, when they see my content, they have this idea that I'm presenting to the world, that men should pay for everything and we should just live life and, be pretty. That is absolutely not what my content is preaching. And that's absolutely not what I stand for. I definitely think that in the beginning stages of dating, your man should try to impress you. He should try to court you and he should try to put his best foot forward. At least that's the way I roll. And in some cultures, it's totally normal to go 50-50 and to split every single thing. In some other cultures is insane that a woman even touches her wallet on a date. So it all depends where you are in this situation and what beliefs do you have. I don't think there's anything wrong in wanting a man to take care of you when it comes to dates and buy you flowers and buy you certain things. But I'm also not going to tell you that it's horrible if you are okay going 50-50, because you should do whatever works for you in your relationship. So I'm going to tell you what I think should be the norm in the beginning stage of a relationship. If he paying for dates, paying for Ubers, all of that should be on the man until you have the conversation in which you are exclusive with each other. I am not going to apologize for saying that. I'm not going to try to defend my opinion that much. I have zero interest in defending my stance here. I have no interest in discussing this. This is what I think. If you don't think so, that's fine. Like, live life. When a man wants you, he is gonna want to take care of you. He's gonna want to buy you flowers. He's gonna want to take you on a date. He's gonna want you to take you to a trip. Oh my God, recently there was this girl who asked me, oh my God, I recently got this question on What Will Coco Do? I was like, crazy. This guy, she started dating. They've been dating for 2 months, but they've known each other for 10 years. He surprised her with tickets to Paris, but he said the hotel is on her. Excuse me, homie. I did not sign up for, not me, but the girl. Like, she did not sign up to pay for a hotel in Paris. Like, you can't pretend like this is a gift to her. No, maybe you used your points and you got like free economy tickets and you're flying to Paris and you expect her to pay for the hotel. Like, no, absolutely not. In the beginning stages, at least, I think a man should take care of certain, like, most things. And then when you become official and when you start like planning your life together, have a conversation about finances. And the way you're going to have a conversation about finances is you're not going to sit him down and be like how much money you make and how much money you're going to spend. And like, no, don't do that. But start understanding his relationship to money, where he comes from, what did he see growing up. And then you're going to understand his stance on money, because what you don't want is for you guys to talk about moving in together and applying for apartments. And then out of nowhere, you get denied because he has crazy debt or because he has a horrible credit score. And I know things happen and I know people get in different financial situations, maybe student loans. Like, there's so many things that can happen, which is okay, as long as you have an open dialogue. Like, you have to be able to verbalize this to your significant other, especially if you're planning to move in together. You can't just move in and hope for the best. It's like, if you guys are starting something new, it's almost like if you're moving into an apartment, you're signing a contract. Like, you have to be aware of his situation. If you're getting married, you have to know if that person has debt, because you're marrying the whole thing, like all the pros and all the cons. So just understanding where you both are, that's the first step. I actually know somebody who was supposed to move in with their boyfriend at the time. They broke up. And he was like a huge spender. He was like always presenting himself in, all the luxurious ways. And when they were applying for an apartment, they got denied because this dude was, I don't even know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars he was in debt, and he just didn't tell her. And I mean, what did you expect? That the credit check is just gonna go easy? Like, I don't understand. So when you get to that point that you're talking about moving in together, you have to understand how much you both make and how much of that you're willing to spend on rent, on living together, on furnishing the apartment. And then there's a lot of conversations about like, oh, should the man pay for the whole thing or should the woman pay for the whole thing? Or, I mean, and I never had that. Should the man pay everything or should the woman contribute 50-50 or like what's the situation here? And again, I think this all depends on your personal relationship. If you're dating somebody that is a multimillionaire and you have a 9 to 5 job, I would wholeheartedly hope that this millionaire is going to pay for everything. If you are a stay-at-home mom and your husband is a executive, he's going to be paying for everything and you're going to stay home and take care of the children if that's what you guys want. But if you're trying to build a life together, you have to both contribute. You never want to be in a situation where somebody is going to hold certain power over you and staying with somebody in a relationship, but just because you don't have any financial security on your own, that is a huge issue. And I know a lot of girls who stay in relationships because they don't have a single dollar to their name and they don't have a work ethic and they don't know how to live life and they're just, so I think when you are moving in together, you should have these open conversations and talk about your income and what percentage of your income you're willing to contribute to the relationship. If you are, let's say, moving into his apartment, at the end of the day, if you're moving in with somebody and you are planning to be with this person for a long time, you have to contribute to the relationship in one way or the other. Again, if he's a millionaire and he has no problem taking care of you, slay. But if you are both like regular people, I think you should contribute financially because you never want to hear in your fights that you're living off me and I'm paying for your entire life. And if it wasn't for me, just when somebody thinks they have the upper hand or like they have control over you, let me be real with you for a second. If you're going to be with someone and they're the only one that makes money and you're just like living off them, they might control you with that. And who pays has the power. I've heard that many times. And it's unfortunately true sometimes. You can make certain decisions, So just be mindful of that when you are entering a relationship and having those conversations. And it might seem like fun in the beginning that somebody pays for everything, but you just don't want to look back one day and have that bite you in the ass. This also may be this may be an unpopular opinion, but I think that if you are a stay-at-home mom, you should have your man, your husband, transfer a certain amount of money to your bank account every single month, almost like a safety net or something, because you never know. I've seen a lot of crazy shit in my life and I just don't want it. And I don't want this to happen to you. And that is that you are married to someone, you give them children, you take care of the kids. And then one day he comes back home and he's like, I fell in love with my assistant and you have to move out. And he kicks you out and you are just like, you have no money to your name. Yes, you're swiping his credit card, but he can cancel that credit card real quick. So basically the point is, I think you should always have your own money. Sure, you can have joint accounts and all that. I'm going to touch that on a second. But I think that you should always have your own money and you should always just be self-reliant. Like, don't blindly trust people. This is going in such a weird direction. But if you are opening joint accounts, if you're opening joint credit cards, just make sure that you both make sure that he's not an insane spender. What I want you to never do is to open up a credit card and put your boyfriend as an authorized user. Please never do that, because you might end up in credit card debt because he might just decide one day that he doesn't want to pay that anymore, or maybe he's just gonna one day decide that you should, I don't know. I just don't want you to do that. I don't want you to experience that. It's not fun. I mean, there's so many crazy stories I've heard, but let's say that you have a normal, like loving human being next to you, which I hope you do. And if you don't, we're going to talk about that and we're going to record a few more episodes about this. But if you have a healthy, loving relationship, you should look at the world and tackling the world and finances as a unit, not as like two separate individuals. I gotta be honest, I was burned a few times in my past where I don't know how so many of my exes owe me money, which is ridiculous. But I see that entering my relationship with Wes, I was also kind of like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about money. I don't want to talk about this. I was trying to protect myself actually because I just had a few bad experiences, but he made me open up and we're just like, we have financial meetings, we talk about our goals, we talk about our expenses, and I never had that before, and it's so nice and it's refreshing to be able to openly talk about something that we're all dealing with on a daily. And nobody's born with financial knowledge. You just learn as you go, unless you were like studying finance, but it's very difficult to tackle this world if nobody ever educated you on it. Okay, girl, I know these type of relationship conversations can feel very awkward and uncomfortable at times, but they just need to get done and you can't think about it too much. But again, I know you're stressed and you might want to calm your nerves a bit. And honestly, sometimes I don't even want to talk to anybody about my issues. I would rather do some self-reflecting and solve my own problems through meditation and journaling, because deep down we always have a gut feeling. And I love listening to guided meditations and affirmations on the Aloe Moves app. They even have a bunch of sound baths, which I'm a huge fan of. I love listening to them while falling asleep, and they just do so well for me and my nervous system. Aloe Moves is an on-demand wellness platform, almost like a one-stop shop for everything health and wellness. You can find delicious healthy recipes, your beauty routine inspo, and stuff like face yoga, gua sha, or dry brushing. And let's not forget their yoga, Pilates, boxing, cardio, HIIT. There's so much diverse content on this app. I could literally spend days on it. I love it. So if you want to try it out for yourself, you can head over to aloemoves.com and use my code BESTFRIEND for a 30-day free trial, followed by 20% off an annual membership. Okay, that's aloemoves.com, code BESTFRIEND. That's one word. aloemoves.com, code BESTFRIEND. But yeah, I think that in general in life, nobody really wants to feel like they're being financially taken advantage of. Like even in friendships, there's always somebody who doesn't forgot their wallet again, or forgot the Venmo, or forgot this. You just don't want to be that person. And it's not even about the dollar amount. It's about just people taking you for granted. And I mean, it's also about the dollar amount sometimes, but you just don't want somebody to be like a freeloader on your hard work. And I think that's totally fair and valid. Okay, so you and your significant other decided, let's do this. Let's move in together. Let's open a joint account. Let's sign up for this apartment together. You just have to be aware. What are the implications of signing up for this? I also know sometimes that women love to be in this role of a savior, and like if you meet a bad boy and he like needs help and you're gonna save him. I heard so many horror stories where women like, oh, I'll just pay for his apartment, I'll just get an apartment and we can both live in it, but it's going to be under my name because he's currently going through he's currently going through something, so maybe he can't put an apartment on his name. And then you end up paying for this dude's apartment. He's going to be living there with another girl and you're going to be paying for that apartment because you're the only person on the lease. Like, please don't do that. If you have to both be on the lease. If you're getting an apartment, that's really important. You have to both be on the lease. If something happens, God forbid, let's say you get into a huge fight and he kicks you out and he has all your things hostage, if you're not on the lease, you basically have no right to get those things back. So make sure you're on the lease if you're getting an apartment together. If you are the only person on the lease, you are responsible for paying that apartment unless they're a guarantor. But if they're a guarantor, why couldn't they just be on the lease? So just be very mindful of these really big decisions you're making and the documents you're signing. Always consult somebody that you trust before making some very big decisions that can potentially fuck up your financial situation and your credit score. So when you do move in together, there's a bunch of conversations about who pays for the groceries, who pays for the cleaning lady, who pays for the Ubers, who pays for XYZ. At the end of the day, if you guys are looking at your life as a unit, as a partnership, it doesn't really matter if you spend $100 on this and he spends $200 on that. You just have to be like, you're building your life together, and just having an open and honest dialogue about this is the most important thing, because you don't want to move in with somebody and just assume. In my What Will Coco Do, I get a lot of questions about like, oh, I moved in with him and he was all peachy perfect, paying for everything before we moved in, and now I'm in here and he wants me to split everything. Well, did you have a conversation before you moved in? Did you talk about expectations before you moved in? Those conversations can be really uncomfortable, but it's better to have them now than move in and then deal with the repercussions of that. So just have the conversations before you move in. And also, when you do move in and you're like, who's paying for the groceries? Who's paying for this? Who's paying for that? Why don't you sit down, both of you, and write out a list of your fixed monthly expenses and see what percentage of your income you can put towards your life together. And you also got to talk about spending habits. Some people are very frugal with their money, and some people are like, oh, you only live once, just like no stress, money comes and goes. Both of them are like, different, but you have to see where you guys stand. I mean, there are people that go on vacation and spend 3 times their salary for that 1 week. Is that okay with you, or is it not okay with you? So for the last few minutes of this conversation, I want to go through my What Will Coco Do highlights. Whenever I'm answering questions, I created highlights for like financial chats, beauty chats, family chats, friendship chats. So let's go through my finance highlights and see what's happening there. And I'm just going to give my opinion on a few questions that are currently there. Okay, first thing I see here, buy a house with your boyfriend before marriage. I'm just going to answer this a hard no. I don't really want to go in depth, but I think that you shouldn't make any large financial investments with somebody that you're still not 100% sure about. Like, you're just dating. Like, don't do that. Don't dig a hole if you can get out of it. Okay, next question is, boyfriend gets me to put stuff on my credit card and never pays me back. I have to nag him. What will Coco do? My answer to this was, stop doing it. Tell him your credit card is blocked because of unauthorized usage. It was so funny back then. Yeah, I mean, seriously, if you have to ask your man to pay you back, I think you should end that relationship right now. It is insane. It's insane for me that you have to. I'll just stop talking here. I think that relationship is not going anywhere. I'm sorry. Oh my God, look at this question. Split mortgage if my hubby makes 3 times my salary. I can't even believe what the audacity some men have. My answer was absolutely not. And I still stand behind that answer 100%. Okay, this is a fun one. How to get him pay for my lashes, nails, etc. It would just be nice. So when it comes to asking for certain things and gifts from your man, I think it's all in the way you position it and the way you phrase it and word it. And it's not like, it's almost like, oh, baby, it would be so nice if you get this for me. It's so funny how that's like those type of questions are so often on my page. How to ask him for this, for that. And I think everything is in your delivery, like the way you ask for certain things. When you sound entitled and annoying, you're probably not going to get it. You might get it, but like nobody's going to be happy about it. You just have to be happy and appreciative. It's like, oh, baby, my nail broke. You like when I have nice nails, don't you? You want to go for manicures? You want to take me to get a manicure? Just like be cute about it. Oh my God, listen to this question. How to tell my boyfriend to pay for lunch or dinner, but I don't want to sound like a gold digger. Jesus Christ. Whenever I get a question like this, I'm like, girl, gold diggers go for penthouses and Birkins, not lunches and dinner. Know the difference. You just want to be treated as a woman, and you want to be courted, and you just want to feel like somebody's taking care of you, and you're not a gold digger if you want your man to pay for your lunch. This is ridiculous. Look at this question. Fifth date. Asked a guy to order a taxi he didn't want to, but he did before. And I asked him why. And he said, "Who do you think you are? You are nothing yet. We didn't even sleep yet." Jesus Christ. Like, if you have a conversation like this with someone, just immediately know. Like, immediately block him. He's a sad little boy. You don't need him in your life. It's never going to improve. Like, he's gross now. He's going to be even more gross later. Okay, this was an interesting question. Thoughts on men who support their whole family, parents, grandparents, siblings, and etc. I think if you have the means and if that was one of your life goals is to be able to support your family and to provide them certain things, I think that's totally fine. I have nothing against that. I know some girls have an issue if their man is not spending all of their money just on them. I also want to be able to buy the world for my parents, even though they don't even care about stuff like that. But I just want to make their life easier. And if that is a really important goal to me, and if my partner is telling me that's not okay with them, I would be like, well, I'm not okay with you in that case, because this is something I wanted to do my entire life. So questions I often get asked is about like buying flights and who's paying for the flight and who's paying for the hotels and stuff like that, especially if you're in a long distance relationship. I just think, and this is how I always rolled, it's like he should pay for your flight. I just think that's in the beginning stages. I just think he should be the one to spend a little bit more on you. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just think he should pay for the flight. I don't want to defend it. I don't want to explain it. I just think it's nice for him to pay for a flight. Sure, you can pay other things while you're there. I just think it's nice of him to kind of like bring you to him. Okay, this is going to be the last question I'm going to answer right now. And then you can go to my Instagram and go through the highlights and see other and go and see all the other financial questions. This one is, would you sign a prenup? I have nothing against prenups. And I think that if you, in this case, she said he's a millionaire, I'm 9 to 5. If this guy makes so much money and seems like a smart businessman, this is a smart move on his end. You know, there's a lot of people that are just sneaky and they just want to get married and then divorce rich. But I don't see anything wrong in prenups. And I am that type of person that it's like, I'll make my own money anyway. So I don't need your shitty little money. That would be my vibe if we were ever getting a divorce. Who you marry is one of the most important financial decisions of your life. And the person you're with can make you or break you. I wholeheartedly believe in that. And if you are a smart businessman and you got to the level of being a millionaire, you would make another smart decision and have a contract with the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And also, to be clear, prenups are not just like one side takes all. You have to have your own lawyer. If in case you do have a prenup, you have your own lawyer, he has his own lawyer, and then you talk about worst case scenario. If you get a divorce, what is the custody situation like? What is the alimony like? There's so many crazy horror stories that I've seen all over, I've heard all over, and I just don't want you to think that prenups are so horrible if you do get into a conversation about this. I think they're not that bad. And it's not like if you sign a prenup, you're going to be left with nothing. It's to protect both sides. And in case of a separation, things are just easier. You know, actually, didn't Dave Portnoy recently said that he can't get a divorce because he is too rich? Because honestly, he probably doesn't have a prenup and he's so rich right now that if he gets the divorce, 50% would go to his wife. So it's easier for him right now to just like stay married, quote unquote. That's what I heard on a podcast he was on. But one of my goals is to understand personal finance a bit better, start investing and start just being smart and just start looking after my future. I want to interview a financial advisor. I want to interview somebody who can help us just understand finances a bit better. If you have any ideas, drop them in. You can leave a review. You can send me a DM. You can leave a comment on my Instagram, whatever. We want to be financially stable. We want to be financially independent, financially responsible. There's nothing wrong in buying yourself a treat here and there, like a nice designer bag, a nice this, a nice that. I heard somebody saying if you can't buy it twice, you can't afford it. And I think that's actually true. So keep that in mind next time you're buying like a bag that you can't afford. I have no idea why this was the conclusion of this episode, but I guess it just came to my mind. And as everything in life, I just say what's on my mind. So that's all. Bye-bye. Bougie Bestie, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Be sure to subscribe to my podcast so you never miss out. I release new episodes every Friday. If you love Bougie Best Friend, please leave a 5-star rating and a review. Your support means the world and it helps the show grow. You can also follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Coco Beauty, and you can find Bougie Best Friend on Apple, Spotify, and all other major podcasting platforms. Love you. Bye.